Yo, welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Jakey for Tuesday, April 19th. Um, Jesus, I forget what day it is sometimes. It's Monday, but I'm recording this for Tuesday. Yeah, it's Monday night, and I am in Brooklyn. I am in Cobble Hill, where I've been staying since I got back from Detroit. Jesus, last Tuesday. Totally losing track of time, losing track of days, losing track of sort of everything here in New York, trying to figure out like I've been trying to cram in seeing people, but also have time to myself. I've been trying to see a bunch of different friends. I'm just trying to like wrap my head around being here in New York City, which I've talked about last week and the week before, and figuring out what I like, what I don't like, where I want to be, and just trying to go with the flow and live in the moment, but also trying to make the most of my time here. And it's been a good week back here, I guess. I don't know where all the time goes. I had some good hangs this week. I hung out with my friend Karina Reichman, longtime Rocks Off employee. We had a great day. Saturday, just running all around the city. We did the three-park tour: Tompkins Square Park, Washington Square Park, Union Square. Saw my buddy Ikey Sloan, where we went and hung out in Madison Square Park, all on Saturday. Then I went and played softball with my team, where I went 5 for 7. I got 5 base hits, 3 singles, and 2 home runs. And then my boy John Z sent me a message after softball the next day, and he just said, "You're an elite softball player, bro." And I was like, "God damn, I am." I was actually the captain of my junior varsity baseball team in senior year of high school. Uh, that's a sport I always really enjoyed, and I enjoyed playing baseball too. I enjoyed baseball a lot more than softball. I never really wanted to play softball because I always thought it was like a boring game, not as exciting as baseball because the ball just moves slower and you don't hit the ball as far. And I did play on a baseball team for 2 summers. In summer of 2007 and 2008, I played on a team that was organized by Julian Casablancas of the Strokes. He had a team in Central Park, which it's hard to get permits for baseball teams, but when you play on the Strokes, the Parks Department will let you do whatever you want. We actually had a fast pitch softball team, and Julian, whether you know this or not, was quite a pitcher and threw a nasty curveball. And he used to actually go train with one of the pitchers from the New York Mets. Gave him private pitching lessons at the Mets practice facility back in the day. He could pitch pretty good, and for a couple of years I played on his team, and it was like a pickup game basically, where a bunch of us would show up and we would just play baseball with whoever showed up. It wasn't like an organized league, and that's what softball is like now too. I don't play in a league. I just play with a group of guys, and we all show up on Saturdays. And I've been doing that since like 2012, 13 maybe. We would just all show up at J.J. Walker Field in the West Village on Saturday nights, and we just do batting practice for a while, and then we pair off and come up with 2 teams, just kind of random team selections, and then we just play a game for as long as we have the field, which I guess we have it from 7 to 10 p.m., but we usually quit around 9:30. This past weekend, it started raining on us, so we called the game a little bit early, and we were all soaked, but we played like 2 innings in the rain. And I think all of us wanted to call the game off, but none of us wanted to be the ones who actually stopped playing. And like things like that make me feel really good about being in the city and being with a bunch of people who, I think a few people in the group are sort of music business guys, but we never really talk about work on the field. And it's not a spoken thing. We just never have. Just never. It's just never something we talk about. We don't really talk about our personal lives at all. We just show up and play. I have a couple guys on the team who I've known for a long time. So we usually go out to eat pizza or Mamoon's falafel afterwards. But yeah, it's one of those things that's like when everything else in your life is about networking, especially for those of us in New York City, it's a good respite in that we don't worry about anything else than just playing with each other. And like I know most of the guys' first names. I don't think any of us. I don't know any of their last names really. Um, they don't really know mine. Nobody cares, and that's what I like. And that's what I like about the time I've spent out there in Idaho too. Is that I don't. Nothing comes down to who you are or what you've done or what your accomplishments are in life. It's just about you having a good time being here on the field. You having a good time working behind the bar in Idaho. Just kind of just being people. And think I mentioned this on another podcast, but I really like the phrase, I'm just a human, comma, being. And I don't know that I heard that somewhere or if I came up with it myself, but just I'm a human, comma, being. That's all I want to do is be. Um, I don't want to work. And it's not that I don't want to work. I don't want to work on music business stuff. I obviously have no problem working long hours and working hard. But even this morning, we're putting a show on sale tomorrow with Start Making Sense, a Talking Heads tribute that I've worked with for a long time. And I had to like, I had to. I'm doing a show with Lars Fredriksson, the guitar player from Rancid. I've worked with that band forever, since 2005. I've done all the Rancid shows in New York City. So I'm doing a Lars Fredriksson solo show, and this morning I needed to do some promo work for it, and the extent of that was just posting some stuff on the Rocks Off Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and even that I just get this weird anxiety of I gotta come up with a witty caption about making people want to come see a show, and I'm just kind of I'm just over that in life, really. It's just kind of you want to come to the show or you don't want to come to the show. How am I going to promote the show to you? Do you like Lars Fredriksson? Do you like Rancid? Well, then the show's happening. Then you should come to it. If you don't like Rancid, don't come. And I got another show that I'm putting on sale tomorrow with Start Making Sense, the Talking Heads tribute. So I'm going to have to do more social media posting tomorrow. I'm also going to be on a bus tomorrow to Washington, D.C., where I'm going to see yet another Jack White show. This one's a little impromptu, but I'm going to go down to D.C. tomorrow, and me and Steve Jackson, lead singer of the Pie Tasters, who will be playing on a boat in September. They're one of our yearly bands. We have a bunch of bands that play the boats every year, and I'm happy to do that. But getting outside of that, I'm just, it's just such a grind, man. And I think a lot of it just represents things I used to do, and things I used to put a lot of work into to try to get ahead. I hung out with Phil Costello, my old bandmate from Tragedy, today, at his house for a while. Hung out with him and his wife Chassie, and Phil said something about how he hasn't had a band now. His last band, he sort of left, broke up, whatever, however you want to say it. But he hasn't had a band in 6 months, and he's like, dude, I can't tell you how happy it makes me to not have a band and not worry about what's next and what I'm trying to do to make the band bigger and better and what the next thing I can achieve is. And I was like, dude, I feel the same way. I don't want to achieve anything right now. I just want to be a human, comma, being. And as much as I've had a good time being in New York for a while and out there in Detroit felt a lot more like a vacation where I was in another city seeing things for the first time. And New York just feels like catching up with old friends. I thought maybe it would turn into the type of thing where it made me feel like I want to be here in the city more. But the more time I'm spending here, the more I'm finding it's almost like falling into an old routine that I can do super easily. And it's almost like maybe it's like what a relationship feels like when you've been in it for too long, and it's just the thing you stay in because it's easy. And I could come back here and I could reignite my marriage with New York City and just go through the same motions that I've always done. But it doesn't feel like there's nothing I want to do that I need to be in New York to accomplish, because there's nothing I really want to accomplish right now outside of writing and painting and just being, like I said. And I want to read books and hang out, and I want to sit in my hammock, and I want to take baths in the river. And I'm very much leaning towards going back to Idaho and working in the bar again, in the Yellow Pine Tavern. I actually had a good phone call today with the guy who's buying it, and I wasn't sure if I would want to work with him / for him this summer, but after thinking about it a lot, I went into the phone call with him today about the changes he wants to make to the tavern and how he wants to operate it, and I sort of finished that phone call. I kind of went into it being I think that's what I want to do, is go back there. And after the phone call, he didn't necessarily say any of the right things, but he certainly didn't say any of the wrong things, and there was nothing that made me be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this guy. I actually had a nice 45-minute call. And, I told him, yeah, I want to work, and how much are you going to pay me, basically? And he was like, well, I'll try to figure that out. And I told him what my arrangement was from last year, and he's like, I think we can make that work. And I was like, cool, because nobody wants to go back to do the job they did previously for less money, right? That's just normal human nature. But regardless, even if it was less money, I gotta say that I think that's where I want to be, and I like the idea of being in service to that community there, which I know I've talked about on here before. But like, I like being the guy that townspeople count on for coming to the tavern and getting a smile and some sarcasm and good music playing and a cold beer, and I make them a nice burger, and I think that's plenty, man. I think I can earn a little bit of money. I don't have a lot of expenses out there. I probably won't live in a house this summer. I'll probably come back to New York a handful of times for cruises I have. That's what I'm leaning towards now. And I'm gonna go to DC tomorrow. I'm gonna see Jack White. Then I'm gonna go to my dentist in Philly on Wednesday, and then back up to New York to see another Jack White show at Barclays Center on Thursday, and then I got a few more days. Play softball on Saturday. Might go play golf with Ronnie, one of my boat owners, on Friday, and try to squeeze in some more reading and writing and a little bit of painting, and then just head out and get my motorcycle and hit the road. And I don't know that I have a lot to say this week, but I say that every week. But I was listening to this podcast with Rick Rubin, mega producer Rick Rubin, and he was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and a lot of people I know like Lex Friedman, and my buddy Lance Rockworthy of Two Skinny Jays told me I should listen to this one, and I don't like Lex Friedman's vibe. There's something about his cadence and the way he talks, and sort of, I wouldn't call it an accent. He was born in Russia, but he certainly doesn't have any kind of Russian accent. It's just the sound of his voice, the sort of drawl that he has, just doesn't connect with me, and it doesn't make me feel good to listen to. But I listen to this podcast because I love Rick Rubin, and one of the things he said, Lex Friedman was asking, like, do you think you're a special person, and because you're a special person, were you able to draw out the best from all the musicians you worked with? And he said, do you think you're like a special person? And Rick Rubin said, we are all capable of being big fish. I don't think there are special people. I don't think it's like that. And Lex said, it does seem that you're out of this world. Maybe you're just a meat vehicle and you're channeling ideas from somewhere else. And Rick Rubin said, I feel like I'm channeling ideas from somewhere else 100%. I believe we are all, though. I believe we are vehicles for information that when it's ready to come through, it comes through. And people who have good antennas pick up the signal. I'm sure you've had an experience in your life where you've had an idea for something and you've not acted on it, and eventually someone else does it. And it's not because they're doing it because you had an idea and they stole your idea, but because the time has come for that idea. And if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. It's being broadcast by whatever the source is. I think we all have our own antenna for whatever it is that maybe not everyone has tuned in their antenna to see what it is that their strength in bringing through is, but I'm lucky that it found me because I didn't know that producing music could be a job. And that really hit home because I didn't know that being a concert promoter could be a job. When I got into it, like I promoted a lot of shows in high school at roller rinks and VFW halls, and I had a mobile DJ business where I would DJ school dances and birthday parties and Jack and Jill's. And then I just put on a bunch of shows, and I was doing hip hop shows and punk rock shows, and then I ended up going off to boarding school after I got into a lot of trouble, and then I went to a year of college, and then I moved to LA, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I moved to New York, and I ended up getting a job at Wetlands just as a job to make some money. I was like, well, a nightclub's cool, but I want to get in the record business. And then I got in the record business, and I started a record label, and I've talked about that. I don't want to... That was a good thing for a while. We put out some really cool stuff. And then I ended up just in the talent buyer position at Wetlands, and I did that for a few years. And then Wetlands closed, and that's when I really was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with my life. And at that time, I had booked a bunch of shows with Two Skinny Jays, who were a great like rap rock band from New York, who had most of their success in the 90s and early 2000s. And I started, like, after Wetlands closed, I went to the Knitting Factory and did that for a little bit as the talent buyer there, and then I left there and I just started booking some shows of bands that I knew, and just as I was doing that until I figured out what I was going to do next. And then it turned out I started booking more and more shows, and I was booking shows at the Mercury Lounge and at CBGB's and still at the Knitting Factory even after I quit. And then I took over a club that was called Tribeca Blues and remodeled it and turned it into Tribeca Rock Club. And then I was booking full time again, and before I knew it, I was a concert promoter, and that's what I was doing for a living. And Eddie Eyeball from Two Skinny Jays gave me a lot of encouragement during that time, and he said this phrase to me. He said, "Hey man, you know what our motto is in Two Skinny Jays when it comes to playing in New York? No Jake, no Jays. Either you're going to put on a show for us, or we're just not going to play in New York City anymore," because they were having a lot more success outside of New York City for whatever reason. Their time had kind of come and gone, but I always kept getting them interesting gigs after they decided they didn't want to play the city anymore. And he said, we said as a band, no Jake, no Jays. Like, if Jake's not booking the show, then we don't want to do it. And he said, there's a lot of bands that feel that way about you. And I think I just had my antenna up and during that time, and I just started booking shows kind of by mistake that I didn't know were going to lead to me being a promoter. And now that's sort of like over, and I'm just kind of letting my antenna up now. And I'm trying to catch signals that are coming down. I've been catching that a lot by writing, a lot by painting, and a lot by just being and just trying to just exist. And I think throughout this whole pandemic, I put a lot of pressure on myself last winter to sort of quote unquote write this memoir of mine. And I haven't done any writing in probably like 5 weeks now, because I've just kind of been moving out of Yellow Pine and dealing with everything else that's going on in life. And I know I'll get back to it, so I'm not that stressed about it. But I'm just going to put my antenna back up and capture what I capture and not capture what I don't capture, and feel no pressure to create something for other people. It's sort of like when I started painting, I sold my first painting for $250, literally the first one I painted. And then I made a couple more, and then I tried to sell those by putting them on social media. And then after a few days, I took both of those down. And I barely posted any more pictures of my paintings because I realized it's something I just want to do for myself. And I was like, I don't want to put this out there. And like, I think during the pandemic and all the things that have been going on in the world in the past couple of years, it's like, I think we have to remind ourselves to just give ourselves more credit for being alive, for existing, and for just being humans, being, and that, whether you have a job that's on a career path of yours, or whether you're just making some money to get by, I applaud you. I applaud you for getting up every day and going to work and not being depressed and not doing something drastic that's self-harm if you're prone to those type of things like I used to be. And even now, like the type of self-harm that I get into is eating shitty food and putting on weight and like not exercising as much as I want to. But still, I'm not doing drugs, I'm not drinking, I'm not getting into frivolous relationships with women where I'm not interested in them. I'm like, I want things that I do to count and to matter in my personal life, whether it's romantic relationships or friendships. And I don't want to be dealing with any sort of vampires that are sucking my energy, whether it's personal energy, whether it's professional energy. I don't want to be doing things just because I can, because I have the ability to do it when it comes to work. I want to do things that make me feel good. And for now, for the last summer and probably this summer, being a bartender and a cook at a tavern in the backcountry in Idaho makes me feel good. And when I finish working for the day, like, I enjoy my interactions with people. Even when I throw people out or when things get contentious, I enjoy those interactions. I enjoy putting on cool music for people who haven't been exposed to that before, by playing the kind of music that when people come into the tavern, they say to themselves, they say to me, this is cool music. What is this that you're playing? And I want to do more of that kind of stuff and just kind of just live in the moment and day by day. And when I finish work, I want to go to sleep in my hammock and listen to the sound of the river rush by and look up at the stars in the sky and be surrounded by nature and worry a little bit if a bear is going to come and, bite my face off while I sleep in my hammock at night, which probably isn't going to happen. But more people, plenty of people that aren't me, worry that that's going to happen to me. But like, that's the biggest worry I'm interested in right now in my life is it going to rain? If I take my motorcycle somewhere to camp, am I going to get caught in the rain? And if I do, where am I going to find shelter from that rain? The biggest problem I sort of had in all my riding around and camping was when it does rain, how do you find some shelter? And I don't always want to have to go to a motel. So I was like, I think I'm just going to buy a 6 foot or 8 foot square tarp and a couple of pieces of twine. And if I find rain, I'm just going to string that tarp up and have that, be my little shelter and just sit in a chair underneath the tarp and read a book. Um, and that's really all I want to do. Um, what else do I need to do? Literally nothing. Like, why should I do anything at all? Um, and I want to have conversations with my friends on the phone, and I want to see them in person when I can, and I want to see music every now and then. But like, gotta tell you, I haven't been like. There's nothing else that's been coming through that I want to see. I saw Father John Misty when I got back from Detroit. I went Wednesday night. I went to a Yankee game with Paul Hanley, Eddie Eyeball, and Lance Rockworthy from the Jays. Then on Thursday night, who were all wonderful fucking people who I love in my life, and just like felt really good about hanging out with my bros and watching a baseball game that I think the Yankees lost, but I didn't even really care that they lost. Like, it wasn't about wasn't about being a Yankee fan. It was about being an experienced fan and experiencing time with my friends. And Thursday night, I went to see Father John Misty at the Rainbow Room at Rockefeller Center. Like, I like Father John Misty just fine. But my friend Noah is his manager and has been working on putting this show on for over a year. And Father John Misty played with an orchestra and a string section and horns at the Rainbow Room. And like, I listened to the new album. He played his new album in its entirety, and I liked it when I listened to it. And then I enjoyed the performance of it. And then I listened to the album again the next day and liked it a lot more. And I kind of wished I'd listened to it a couple more times before the show. But then I spent half of that show just literally staring out the window at New York underneath me. Because the Rainbow Room, if you don't know, it's a restaurant, fancy-ass highfalutin restaurant and event space on the 65th floor of Rockefeller Center. So the views were just incredible looking out the window. And I just took that whole experience in. And then I ran into some friends. I ran into my friend Josh Moore and his wife Justice, who's pregnant, and she looked radiant and beautiful. And then I ran into Joanna Choi, who used to be one of the backup singers in Tragedy called Women's Gib. That's what we named our background singers. And Joanna Choi went by the name Olivia Newton-Chong. I ran into her and her boyfriend John, and we chatted after the show, and they gave me a ride home. And I was like, this is nice. I enjoy this. This is great. And then on Friday night, I went to see... I'm like, I don't want to see any shows. Friday night, I went to see John Fogerty on a whim. I didn't realize he was playing at the Capitol Theater, so when I went up there to see him, and I got a seat in the owner's box from Peter Shapiro, and I ended up getting sat next to Baba Booey, Gary Delabate from the Howard Stern Show, and I got a kick out of that, and we chatted for a little bit, and Jesus, then Saturday I had that epic day with Karina and Isaac, and then we played softball, and Sunday I feel like I didn't do anything. I didn't. I just kind of hung out. Right. And then Christine and I, my friend that I'm staying with here, went to the movies. I was like, that's all well and good, but I could just go to shows over and over. And that's what I used to do when I lived in New York. I just went to events all the time. But like, I enjoyed going to these events, but I look at like, what's my life going to be like if I live in New York? For another summer or fall or however long. And I'm like, I'm just going to go to events again. And like, I've been to all the events, yeah, I can see some bands. Like Jack White is doing something right now musically and has been for the past bunch of years. I mean, his whole career he's been doing things that speak to my soul musically, but his solo records have really, I've been giving them a lot of listening time and a lot of listening time to the Raconteurs and the White Stripes the past few years, especially post-treatment. And, just seeing those shows was really blown me away. So I'm going to go see more. And then hopefully maybe later on in the tour I'll get to see more. But like, even the Fogerty show, I was like, this is cool and all. And I'm happy I'm up here seeing it. But like, to take the subway to Grand Central Station, like, I would have been just as happy listening to no music and staring out at the river all day. And that's what I'm looking forward to getting back to. So when I come back from DC and Philly, I'm going to spend a few more days trying to cram in a few more friends that I haven't gotten to see yet, and hopefully some more downtime and personal time for myself. And then I'm going to go back to Idaho, and I'm going to get my motorcycle, and I'm going to ride it down to Zion and southern Utah, and I'm just going to sit in the sun, and I'm going to finally be in a place where where there's nothing else around. I just want to go to where there's nothing, where there's no internet access, there's no worries, there's nobody to communicate with except myself, and I just want to re-commune with myself in a way that I haven't done since I was back up in Yellow Pine And I think that's where I want to go. And that's where I want to be. Um, I had a funny experience last night where we went to the movie theater at the Alamo Draft House in downtown Brooklyn. And afterwards, we went into McNally Jackson bookstore. The Alamo Draft House is in this big, like, multi tiered kind of shopping center where they have a Target. They have a bunch of retail stores on the ground floor, then a Target on the second and third floor, then the Alamo Draft House up on the top floor. And afterwards, we went to McNally Jackson. I picked up what I talk about when I talk about running by Murakami, Japanese author. And I started reading that last night and this morning, and I'm loving it. And that's a book about philosophy, his philosophies on writing and running, and how they sort of, the philosophies of both intersect for him. And as a person who's been a long time avid runner and distance runner and writer, I could really dig into, and I enjoyed that. And then afterwards, after we trolled through the bookstore for a little while, we went downstairs into the basement, and I was like, hey, there's a Trader Joe's in the basement. Let me go downstairs. I want to get a snack. And Christine was like, okay. So we go downstairs, and the Trader Joe's was closed, but there's a big food hall down there. And I know food halls are all the rage now, but the way these things are is they're collections of all the coolest restaurants in New York. There's a Katz's Deli down there, and there's a something or other wings and a fancy cupcake shop. Honestly, I don't even know what was down there, because we got down there, and when I saw the Trader Joe's was closed, I was like, get me the fuck out of here. And I'd only been down there once before, and I had the same feeling. And I joked to Christine. She was like, these are all good restaurants, though. And I was just like, I hate this place. I hate everything it represents. I hate all these fucking food stalls. And she was like, it's all really good food. It's good restaurants. And I'm like, I know they are. But this is like a zoo. I feel like someone collected these restaurants and put them downstairs here. Like, if I want to eat at Katz's, if I want some Katz's pastrami, I'm going to go to the original Katz's. I want to experience this restaurant in its natural habitat. I don't want to go to the second outpost where, like, it's not the main chef, right? It's not, it's like, it's like when you go to a ballpark, when they have Jersey Mike's cheesesteaks at Yankee Stadium, or they have Shake Shack or Blue Smoke Barbecue at the Met Stadium, that City Field out there. You're like, this isn't the real Shake Shack. And not that there is even a real Shake Shack anymore, because once again, that's become a thing. And I find like, I don't want to go to restaurants that have multiple locations. I want to go to the restaurant where there's one guy open a restaurant, or one woman or a family, and they've run that restaurant for 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, maybe 2 years, but where somebody put their heart and soul into that one location. Like going to an outpost of Katz's in a basement of a shopping mall in Brooklyn, that almost feels sacrosanct. Like, Katz's is Katz's. Katz's isn't supposed to be a chain, but everybody wants to, like, take their business and scale it and expand it. And it's like, it may be good, and sure, I'm happy that people who want to go eat Katz's pastrami can get Katz's pastrami in Brooklyn, I guess. Good for them, but that's not what I want to do. And I don't really want to be associated right now at this part of my life anyway. I don't want to be associated with, not even associated, but I don't want to even interact with or be part of or patronize things that aren't real, things that aren't like a one-shot experience. And is the food at the Yellow Pine Tavern the best food in the world? No. But when I cook a burger for somebody, I cook it with love. I'm not doing it just as a job. Though some people come in there and I'm like, I don't like this person. And I don't care if I get their bacon right for the grilled cheese or for the BLT. Or I don't care if I overcook their burger a little, I'm not paying attention. But for the most part, when I'm back there making food, I'm like, I'm going to make this person the best fucking burger I can. And I'm going to give these people a good experience. I'm sort of like being in service to people in that way, and sort of crafting that experience for them in that one day and that one afternoon that they're in the tavern. That's just where my brain is at now, and that's the type of thing I want to do. And I don't want to go to a food zoo. The little note I wrote just said, fuck these food zoos. I want to eat these foods in their natural habitats. And I made a few other notes. We went and saw the movie Ambulance, and I just made a note that said I hate movies where the bad guys lose. Jake Gyllenhaal was like a bad guy bank robber, but he was a good guy, and they kept pointing out throughout the movie that he didn't kill the cop that he had hostage, and that he was the son of a bank robber, and that his dad had killed so many policemen during robberies, and they're painting him out to be a better robber. But in the end, I don't know, spoiler alert, but in the end, he lost. He got killed. He didn't make it out. And I was like, I'm watching this movie, and I think the idea was that we were supposed to be rooting for the cops. But, like, why would I root for the cops? And why would I root for the banks? Like, this guy robbed a bank, and now the cops are trying to stop him. Fuck the banks. Fuck the police. I wanted Jake Gyllenhaal to win. And I feel like the natural arc of so many movies is that the good guys always win, and like that, I don't want to see that. Let the asteroid hit the Earth in Armageddon. You know, who fucking cares? I think that's what attracts me to like Quentin Tarantino films. For one example, like it's never like the bad guys don't always get their comeuppance in the end, and I don't think in life the bad guys don't always get their comeuppance, but it's also that's a lot of gray area between what's a good guy and what's a bad guy. Are cops good guys naturally because they're cops? No. Are banks good guys? What planet do we live in? No, no, thank you. Um, I also made a note. I don't even know where this came from, but it's about being like I said, important. It's important to be friends with young people because otherwise we all get old and all our friends will start dying. And I was thinking about. I have a lot of younger friends in New York, and even younger friends up like I got my buddy Danger Dave up there in Yellow Pine who's 15 or maybe 16 now who I love chatting with, and I like talking to younger people and finding out like what is it that you like I want to see the world from the perspective of a young person, whereas a lot of people my age have like settled down into what they like, and they want to like the same bands and see the same music and rewatch the same movies or art in whatever different way it is. Like I want to know, I want to read the classics, but I also want to know who's a young author who's doing something cool, right? Who's a young filmmaker, and just what does a young person feel like about this world? And I think I was reminded by that by hanging out with Karina and Isaac both on Saturday, who were both 27, and I've known them both since they were 18. Karina started interning with me when she was 18, so that means she's 28 now. Then it's like I like connecting with people like that and finding out like how do you see the world? And I think a lot of older people try to tell the young people like this is what's cool. And I was guilty of it too. Like there was a girlfriend I had back in the late 2000s, and I played her Paul's Boutique once, and after like the third song she was like, oh, okay, let's listen to something else. And I was like, what? How can you say you're a hip-hop fan if you don't want to listen to all of Paul's Boutique? But it's like if you weren't around for that, maybe it doesn't matter to you. Like, okay, then play me what you like. Like, I want to hear what you like, and I like listening to new hip hop now. Sometimes I still can't tell the difference between who's who, but like, I want to hear this stuff, and I want to understand like how is the world evolving and changing, and what's going on. I think intergenerational relationships, not romantic relationships, but just friendships, serve a lot of purpose in a lot of ways because I think hanging out with younger people keeps me young in a way. And I think it's also important to, share some sort of wisdom with the younger people. Especially not to lecture them. Like let them ask, hey, what was this like? Oh, when you were growing up, what was that like? And instead of saying, when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones. We had to read the liner notes of records, and that's how we found out who played with who and who played with what. And it was better then. It wasn't better then. It was different. Like, how do you guys find things out? I want to know this. And it's cool to share information like that. And also I realize like I like to think I'm pretty healthy and hopefully I'll live a long time. But like I don't want all my friends to be my age when I become 70, when I become 80, when I become 90. Like I want to know that there's 50-year-olds out there that I'll be able to talk to and communicate with and hear from and share ideas and thoughts and vibes with. And I don't want to age out. I was reading about Jimmy Buffett has a chain of retirement homes now based on the Margaritaville concept. He's got one in North Carolina and two in Florida, and he's making so much money. There's a big article in the New Yorker about it, which I think you can read for free even if you don't have a subscription. And it was all about how he's selling thousands of homes in these retirement communities, and they're not specifically Jimmy Buffett themed. When you get on there, there's music playing in all the common areas and stuff, and people are buying their little houses, and they're having pickleball games and cornhole games and beer pong and stuff, and these people are just like kind of getting older together, and that's all well and good, but I don't want to just get old with a bunch of old people. I don't want to just take a moment of my life in my 30s or my 20s or whatever and try to keep reliving those forever. I want to be able to be in my 40s and in my 50s and in my 60s and live that life. And sure, I want friends my own age and that I can talk to about. We can have the same reference points for like this is the music that in our coming of age periods. But like kids nowadays think like okay, do you know who Led Zeppelin is? No, well, who cares? Like do you know who every old painter is? No. Like things just move along. Do I even what am I talking about? I don't even know. Um, but I just uh, I think I just want to be out there meeting people, having experiences, connecting with people one on one, and I don't necessarily want to do that in New York, and I want to do that in Yellow Pine for a little bit, and the other thing that leads to is that I've been thinking obviously about my own mortality, and especially since I was suicidal and then didn't kill myself, and now that I'm here, I'm like, all right, well, what's the rest of my life gonna look like? I lived for basically 28 years. I've been a New Yorker. And obviously, the last 2 years I haven't lived here, so you could say, well, maybe you could say it was 26 years, right? Um, but I still consider myself a New Yorker, and I come back here, and I think once a New Yorker, always a New Yorker in a lot of ways. If you've spent enough time to really consider the city your home, then it's always going to be your home. I certainly consider this my home more than I consider Massachusetts my home. But I'm also realizing that, like, all right, I'm 48 and a half. I'm going to be 49 in August. Then the year after that, I'm going to be 50. So how many years do I have left of really, like, being able to, like, get around and be physical and, like, go on hikes and ride motorcycles and like how long will I be able to work as a bartender if I want to, or even have the literally the physical energy to like be out and about all the time? And like I don't know how much longer that's going to be. Is it going to be 10 years, 15, 20? I would guess 20 plus years, right? Like till I'm 70 or in my early 70s, I'll still be able to move around. But I don't know. And I could get sick. Um, I could crash my motorcycle and break a hip and not be as mobile as I am now. Or a lot of different things could happen. But that's the more I've been thinking about that, not in any fatalistic way, but just thinking like literally on you know facing my sort of mortality is leading me to think like, well, how do I want the next 20 years of my life to look then? And it's like I think I want to experience as many different places as I can as far as like living is. And I think when it comes time to settle down somewhere, I guess I'll feel that at the right time. But like some sort of conventional wisdom right now would say like go buy your own house, save enough money to buy a house. And right now I'm kind of like maybe I'll save enough money to buy a plot of land in Yellow Pine for $20,000 or $30,000, and then maybe I'll build a remote off-grid cabin uh, that doesn't need to be fancy, that I can go and spend summers in or spend time in. But like, do I want to build one house? Do I want to pay for one house that I'm just gonna live in from now until I'm 80 and pay a bank for? Like, no, why would I want to do that? When there's so much other things I want to experience. There's places I want to travel to, and like maybe I want to settle in New Orleans for a while. Maybe I want to settle in California. Maybe I want to settle in Oregon. Maybe I want to go to Brazil. Like who knows? Maybe I'll spend time in Mexico or Costa Rica, or probably most likely I'll want to go spend some time in places that I'm not even imagining right now because the winds are going to blow me in a certain direction and fate in the universe is going to dictate that I'm going to end up somewhere that I can't even think about right now because the possibilities are endless. Just like 2 years ago, never would have imagined that I'd end up living in Idaho, right? So I think it just coming down to like not wanting to, I think, not wanting to go backwards, much like the reason I didn't want to move back to McCall is because I already lived there. And Yellow Pine, I guess I already lived in, but I feel for whatever reason, I feel like I have some unfinished business in that town, um, cosmic business that I want to go there and spend another summer there. So it looks like that's what I'm gonna do. I try to make these podcasts go for an hour. This week I'm just not feeling it. I feel a little disjointed. We got 40 minutes in. I just don't think I've processed enough thoughts and feelings to come with good podcast content this week. So I'm going to leave it pretty much here. Nothing else really coming to mind. I do have a bunch of other notes, that I've taken, but it's stuff that I want to kind of sit on more in my own brain and process. And guess I'll be back to you guys next week, probably. But whereas I'm leaving New York next Tuesday morning, we'll see. I might not have an episode next week, and if I don't, I'll try to get to you Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, or it might be the whole week after that. But I'll be back when I feel like I have an hour's worth of things that are worth talking about and saying on this podcast. And until then, I urge you once again to be good to yourselves, good to other people around you. Tell people that you love them, and most importantly, like, do some stuff that's going to really feed you in some kind of way, that's going to feed your soul, that's going to feed your curiosity, that's going to feed your intellect, or that's just going to feel your desire to do nothing. If you just want to sit around and read a book all day or just binge watch a TV show, that's fine too, because the fact that we're still here and we're still alive amidst everything that's going on politically and ideologically throughout the world, and people arguing about everything in a pandemic that's still kind of raging, even though people are just wanting to pretend it's over. Just give yourself some slack and give yourself some credit for still being here and being around, and see if you can find your own yellow pine. Arwen, if you're out there, I hope you've thought more about your own yellow pine and finding it for yourself. I love you guys. I do. I don't even know who listens to this because I don't hear from a lot of you, even though I keep saying reach out to me and let me know. But I know people are listening because I get enough messages from people, and sometimes it's the same people, but it doesn't matter because I really enjoy doing this, whether you're listening or not. And if you are, God bless you. I hope you're still getting good stuff out of it. Anyways, I guess it was Easter. I guess it was Passover. I guess it's still Ramadan. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. And know that you are a unique and special creature. And the universe loves you. I don't know if God loves you. I don't even know if I love you because I don't know you. But I love the fact that you exist. I know that. And I probably love you. I might not like you if I met you. But I love you. And I want you to be happy. And I want you to find ways to make yourself happy, and don't look for it in other people. You are everything you need. Just keep your antenna up and let love in. Let love rule. God bless you, and inshallah.